In this episode of the Stretch Goals podcast, Scott and I are going to be talking about focusing on the execution and not the ideation. This is the Stretch Goals podcast, where each week we'll share insights and lessons learned based on our experiences as entrepreneurs. We'll challenge you to create ambitious goals as you start and grow your business. I'm your host, Robert Dickerson.
And I'm Scott Davis.
So we're back live with another video this week. So if you haven't checked it out, go over on YouTube. We got a number of hits from our videos last week. So we appreciate you watching and listening. And, send us some feedback on Twitter and let us know, what experiences you're taking away from these and maybe some things that you'd be interested in us talking about for future episodes.
What Rob's not telling you, though, is we actually got 5,000 views on one of our videos.
Possibly not legitimate, but we didn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah, I mean, we're really popular in Vietnam, apparently, with 3,000 views.
It blew up.
Worldwide.
So the episode today, Scott, I wanted to talk about, something that I've been experiencing during my career and also within my startups and within my companies is that it's a lot of fun to focus on the ideation portion. You know, I've been in corporate jobs where we all get together and we sit around and we think up ideas to solutions. We don't involve the customers, it's just kind of an ideation. Where can we go? And, while that's the fun part, that's maybe such a small percentage of actually growing a business or growing a product or an idea. It comes down to the execution, not so much the ideation. So I thought it'd be interesting to talk about that. Have you experienced that in the corporate world or within your job now?
Yeah, I've experienced it all the time. I mean, corporate startups, everything. I mean, even like if you go back to college, like you have a college project, it's all about this grandiose idea, then you find out it's harder to implement than you thought, and you just kind of like backpedal down. But yeah, no, I mean, it happens every day in every facet of industry.
I mean, the ideation part is so much fun, right? Because I think as, if you're a designer, if you're an engineer, if you're a creative, you could kind of get the juices flowing, right? You have a blank slate to design, to build, to envision, kind of the solution that you want to, without being encumbered by customers or, competitors or other things, right? And so that it can be really useful to sit down and think about your idea and really think through things, but you really need to focus on the execution. And so I want to talk today about some ways that you can do that after you've gone through the ideation, some ways that you can focus on actually getting things done, right? And one of the ways I start out by doing that is just kind of creating an outline from the idea, what are the next steps that I need to execute on? And for me, I really enjoy having kind of that outline because it kind of provides me a list of tasks that I can go out and execute. I mean, after you think of a new idea for an app or you're kind of brainstorming with clients, what's kind of that next step that you take to, start down the execution path?
Well, I think, let's go back an episode where we were talking about the MVP is dead. And then let's go back 2 episodes where we were talking about how to prioritize your product roadmap. Both of those are directly applicable to what we're talking about here. And that's because, like you said, ideation is super fun and we could throw so many ideas into anything we're doing, right? But what happens is then our idea goes from this very basic, I'm going to do this, to this giant ball of ideas. And so what you have to do is take a step back and go, okay, it's going to take me a year to develop all of those ideas, but what can I do in pieces to get to something more achievable and attainable in the short term, right? So identify what your MVP is or your riskiest assumption tests are, right? That's step 1. And then start prioritizing your roadmap accordingly. So, break it down. Like maybe you have a phase 1, a phase 2, and a phase 3. Your phase 1 is your very basic features or whatever it is you're trying to achieve. Get those done first. Your phase 2 is let's add some bells and whistles to it. And phase 3 is some of the more elaborate and in-depth ideas. That's probably what I would do. Just looking at, at a large idea is break it down into phases and make it as simple as possible in the first 1 to 2 phases and then kind of take it from there. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good place to start. I think, if people are interested in this topic, go back and check out our last episode where we talked about the MVP and we talked about the product roadmap, like you said, in the last two episodes. So I think those are good places to start. So after you've identified a product roadmap, after you've identified these core features, what are kind of the next steps? I mean, for me, the next step maybe is to figure out, do you have the right team in place to execute on those ideas? Or do you have the right partners in place to go out and to implement those things? I mean, one thing that I've been working on lately within MapOut is trying to get into the healthcare space. So I've talked about this before, about the patient education aspect of it. And so for me, it's reaching out and creating partnerships with people in the healthcare community, because my background is not in that. So I know for me to build a business in that space, I need to get partners that are going to help me, because I don't have that experience. I need to get patients involved in the development of my product for it to be, useful to people, right? I don't want to do this in a vacuum, right? I don't want to sit here and ideate in a vacuum. I want to involve my customers, which are the patients. And so if you're thinking about developing your product after you come up with those ideas, think about how can you get customers involved? How can you go get that feedback? How can you reach out to partners? And a lot of it's discovery, right? It's not building something, which is maybe the fun part, right? But it's kind of that discovery of, what do you need to build? What are the real problems out there? And so if you think about that first, if you kind of, like you said, take your MVP down to the core idea, the core product, then you can go build that piece and actually test it and validate it and make sure that it meets, it meets a solution to a problem that you're trying to solve.
Yeah, you're right. And I think, the topic of this podcast kind of says it, it's focus on execution and not ideation. It's easy to focus on the ideation because they're ideas, right? So it's easy to have that in your head all the time, but really you'll have to mentally shift yourself. You'll have to force yourself to do it, to then focus on how to execute those ideas instead of thinking of new ideas to add to the mix. You don't need more ideas right now. You need to start focusing on execution. Granted, if you've got enough structure in your company, you can task people or yourself with coming up with new ideas for the roadmap down the line. But more often than not, you're not in a position where you can offload some of that. So you have to focus on the execution and make sure things are getting done right. Otherwise, your very basic proof of concept won't even hit the target if it's off base. So focus on execution.
Yeah. And a lot of times down the line too, I mean, those customer ideas, those customer requests, the feature set, right, they're going to kind of come in naturally as you're working with people. And so while you might have a vision and kind of a roadmap, I mean, that customer feedback is really going to drive what you're trying to build. And so that's kind of the execution piece, is kind of getting out of your own head and, getting out with customers. And this is not easy, right? It's something I struggle with a lot, because I enjoy thinking about new things and kind of creating this vision, but it can go crazy. And like you said, it can grow into this thing that, you can't implement, because it has so many features and it's kind of deviates from the path of the core problem you're trying to solve.
Yeah. I mean, and we talked about this on episode 30, 5 ways to tackle big ideas. I mean, you just have to break these things down into manageable chunks, and focus on how to get individual pieces done. But the biggest thing is, and this happens all the time, especially in the startup world. I don't know about as much in the enterprise space in the corporate world, but because in the corporate world, when you have an idea, it tends to take forever, right? You have this, we're going to implement a new product, okay? And it's going to take a year and a half to even go to market. Startups is exactly the opposite. We've got an idea and we're going to hit the market in 2 weeks. And you're like, okay. So it's the ideation and the execution piece, it has to happen, and you have to plan it in a way that it's achievable. Otherwise you're shooting yourself in the foot. And I don't know, like, how do you think, what's in your opinion, Rob, what could you suggest to somebody to force themselves to create more manageable ideas?
I mean, the way I do it is kind of, maybe you sit down and you think about, what is your entire vision?
Yeah.
Right. And then you keep paring back features. Do I really need do I really need this piece? Do I really need that piece? Is that really trying to execute on the problem that I'm trying to solve? And I think that is where you have to identify what the solution is and what the problem is you're trying to solve, and maybe what specific customer you're trying to approach. Yeah. And if you can do those three things, then you can kind of whittle down into a core feature set, and take away all the fluff and all the different things that you might have. And just to kind of expand on another area you were just talking about, is when you're working in the corporate environment, it can be different. And maybe it's not so different than, a startup, but the thing that I always experience is you have to push your ideas through so many levels of management before you actually get buy-in. So there's this like inertia that you have to overcome.
It's idea fatigue.
Yeah. And so you have to keep pitching your idea. But it's similar to how you're doing in a startup, because you're just pitching it to external, maybe investors, as opposed to internal management that has to buy in, right? So it's similar, but you still have to keep pushing your idea. And that's why you have to think about, can I whittle it down to the core thing? Because you're going to have to be explaining to people, in a short amount of time, what your concept is, what your idea is, and why they should buy into you. And if you have this huge, long, drawn out solution, you're not going to have time to explain it to them for them to buy in. You're just not going to have that flexibility.
Well, one thing I think is hard too is when you talk about having passion for a product and for an idea that you're working on, it sometimes becomes so much a part of you that it's hard to disembody yourself from the idea, right? It's hard for you to go, okay, yeah, I don't really need this feature right now. We'll get to it in Q3 of this year. It's hard to become unmarried from that process, right? And sometimes you need an objective opinion from outside to have somebody come in and kind of slap you around and go, look, you're doing too much. But I think if people can just understand that you can still we're not saying you're not going to get to your ideas and your big vision, you are. But the best way to do that is to break it down into achievable pieces instead of trying to build a mountain in one day.
Yeah, it's that mountain that's the hard part. Yeah, I mean, I think you need to realize too that, the times that when you need to pivot, or maybe when you need to give up on your idea and try something else. So you need to be not so focused and so driven to a point where you put blinders on that, you're driving down the wrong path. And I think your advice to get external feedback is really good. I mean, if you can get that feedback from customers, from partners, from people you trust. I mean, I reach out to you with ideas and we talk about them. I mean, that kind of feedback is really valuable to me, to figure out, am I going down the right path? Because I'd rather someone tell me, prior to me starting down that path, that I'm not going the right way, than me to spend a bunch of time and money going somewhere that, and trying to execute in something that's not the right fit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you and I have both exited companies. We both sold a company. So I think you and I have kind of been through this, where you've had this baby that you made with your own hands, and you ideated, is that a word? You drove the vision for this product and, executed on it. And when you sell it, you're no longer part of it anymore. And it's kind of hard to separate from it. I think your situation was a little bit different than mine. Mine was an acqui-hire where I had to keep working on what my product ultimately got ingested into, and I saw it get, ripped apart. So that was a little bit tough. But what it taught me is that, you need thick skin when you're going through creating a product, and it especially is applicable to people who are coming up with new ideas right now in the startup world. You've got to be able to take advice, number one. You've got to be able to be realistic about what's achievable, which is why we're talking about this today. You have to be able to say, you know what? I don't need this feature. This feature is going to take 3 months. I can go to market next month if I drop that feature, get some valuable feedback, and then pivot if needed and make my product even better.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are all really good points. So just to kind of wrap up, remember that, while the ideation is the fun part, it really comes down to the execution, and that's what's going to take the longest. And that's why we're all in this for the long haul, is the execution piece. So really, take a listen to other episodes where we talked about, kind of breaking down your product roadmap and your MVP, and then focus on how you can build a team, how you can get that feedback, to start building your product and executing on the business that you want to create.
Thanks, guys. Come check us out on YouTube as well. Check us out on Twitter, on our website. We've got everything linked up that we talk about. Thanks again for listening.